Good afternoon. Welcome to our Cisilion Beyond Tech podcast. Really excited today to be your host. My name is Nathan Ashby. I'm one of our solution specialists at Cisilion, and I'm joined by Will.
I'm Will Telford, and I'm our program manager.
And finally,
And I'm Gemma Staples, Head of Sales Support and Procurement here at Cisilion.
Thank you very much both. So today we've got a very topical conversation that we want to discuss with you and how it impacts your business. So ultimately right now in the industry, unfortunately, there are some procurement challenges due to some memory shortages. Ultimately, the reason we want to talk about this is to make sure you and your business is protected and you have clear paths to how to navigate this circumstance. And I suppose why we need to talk about this is because ultimately what's happening in the industry is that memory, which is critical to many IT products, such as servers, laptops, routers, everything ultimately has memory in it. And what has happened due to the AI era we're now in is certain manufacturers have had their stock pre-brought. So before they've even produced the product, it's sold. And in turn, that demand has resulted in a circumstance where pricing has increased, and likewise it means potentially longer lead cycles for all manufacturers of IT equipment. So I suppose starting with yourself, Gemma, if I may, what have you seen in terms of impact over the last few weeks to month since this is started being hit by the IT industry?
We've seen across a lot of vendors various different communications around pricing, around availability, around their ability to commit those things to us and ultimately to our end users, where we used to have relative surety around the timeframes that things were going to get and the pricing that we were going to pay for them. That is now become a little bit less sure. While a lot of the vendors are doing a really good job at communicating to us what they're doing around making sure that they have availability or they are providing clear guidelines around their pricing, we are still seeing quite regular shifts in those, which is not something we've really seen in the industry since COVID times. When we got used to longer lead times, we got used to more regular pricing changes. So for us, these are things that we're working really hard and really proactively to try and manage with our customer base to make sure that they are aware, as soon as we are, what the impacts to their orders and their requirements and their timelines are.
Understand. And Will, is that very similar from your perspective?
Yeah, very similar. As Gemma alluded to, we're seeing a lot of list price increases across the industry on a regular basis, and we're seeing it going up in the last 3 months. Some cases have been 300% plus. Timelines, as Gemma's mentioned, we've seen anything from 6 months plus on some projects. So yeah, pretty much everything that Gemma's seeing is what we're seeing as well.
Okay. And I think to be clear, while there is some volatile elements in the market right now, what we want to focus on as part of this is what we can do. And to be fair, Gemma, you used some great words there, which is proactively helping our customers. This is not a circumstance that's within our control, unfortunately, unless one of you, fortunately has a load of memory under your desk right now. This is a circumstance we're all facing, and we want to do that together with you and help you through that. So what does this mean for businesses right now? I suppose from yourself, Gemma, do you believe there's anything in particular businesses should be aware of outside of obviously some of the price challenges that could be faced at the moment?
I think what we're seeing, because of those price challenges and the availability of the memory components, we're seeing some changes in availability, not just from a lead time perspective, but also in terms of availability or end of lifing, end of sailing certain kit, right? I think one of the things that I would absolutely encourage our customers to be aware of is that that is happening. Obviously, we're working with them to make sure that we are aligned to them, that we're giving them all of the information as soon as we have it, and allowing them to navigate those pieces. But also that sometimes the first thought solution is not the only solution, and there are various things that we can do to work with them to put in interim solutions that allows them to meet their business goals, while we wait for the forgive me, I've just completely screwed that up. You might want to edit that bit out. We need to work with them to make sure that they have what they need when they need it, and that's about making sure we meet their business goals. Might not necessarily be with the original tech, but certainly make sure that we can do those things for them.
I completely agree. I think this is where clients firstly need to be advised of this, opposed to just hoping it resolves itself. And that's where we kind of come in to really provide that thought leadership with them. You mentioned this isn't the first time we've seen this within the industry. And unfortunately, COVID, it feels like we've been speaking about it for many years since that day still, but very similar challenges were met from a procurement perspective. What we should be doing is 100%, as you say, with our clients, that we always do, is proactively looking at what the situation is and the impact. So just thinking of that now, Will, is there any particular areas that are higher impact than others from a product perspective in terms of whether it's a laptop or a switch? Is there particular areas where customers should be more aware, could be longer and higher pricing than they previously saw than others?
Yeah, so I mean, typically it's in the high quantity memory devices. So in terms of compute, laptops, that we're seeing this now. We are seeing it across all devices, networking, switching, routing, but not at the same rate as what we're seeing in UCS, where it's uses memory heavily. So it's predominantly in the compute area that we're seeing those significant price increases and also the longer lead times.
Okay. And that does make perfect sense, really, considering it's a memory shortage that we're facing due to a spike in demand due to AI, that naturally it would be those servers that are more impacted. And I think this is 100% where we come in to help you understand that. So if there is a situation, and let's take a laptop and use a compute device, and that you need more, aka you've got new staff joining, or perhaps you've got older devices and there's a refresh cycle due, where we ultimately can review that and provide some real guidance to how to navigate it. Obviously, to be clear, if you needed a brand new laptop right now due to you need additional, then ultimately you do need to order more hardware. And naturally, the sooner you do that, the sooner you can secure certain pricing, but also get the device to yourself. There's other options. I think refresh options are sometimes available, is that right?
Yeah, so a lot of our vendors, they will run trade-in programs of some description, and a lot of that as part of this circular economy. They will bring it back into the market as refurbished or refreshed goods. And so there is an opportunity where we've worked with our vendors and we can look at what's available in the marketplace to see if we can help you guys meet your needs and requirements, times and timelines.
Perfect. And Gemma, from your perspective, have you seen an increase in demand around some of those circular economy devices?
I think there's definitely more of an interest in it than we had seen prior to this. We kind of saw a spike in those requirements during COVID, where we had pretty similar experiences, right? And as we were coming out of the back of that, when we had the last chipset shortage. However, everybody kind of got back into the idea of new is best, and we definitely saw a downward trend from that perspective. But we've definitely seen more inquiries and more customers who are happy to explore that as an option to meet their needs, right? I think for me, it's something that we absolutely will explore, should explore, because it can provide a solution which didn't exist previously to meet the customer's need.
And for myself, I'm a bit of a technologist, so there's other ways we can explore that as well, which is sometimes redesigning, thinking outside of the box of what perhaps was the normal you did. So provide someone a fixed device with a certain higher spec to it, to exploring perhaps lower end devices or using older memory, and then using virtualized solutions, so virtual desktops in cloud environments. So there's other ways we can help navigate this outside of just needing raw new products fundamentally. And on that basis of kind of redesigns, the same stands true with existing end-of-life products, Gemma. So you mentioned, obviously, if something is announced end of support, ultimately you have a timeline to replace that. All vendors typically give you 3 to 5 years to do that. So it's a case of building up those roadmaps and cycles to when you can do it. Now, obviously, if you have something coming end of life very soon in terms of that support notice, obviously you do need to kind of make a decision sooner than later. Some of them might be re-architecting. So if it's an application you're running in-house, potentially looking at SaaS or cloud environments to move it to, or looking at existing compute you have and seeing whether you can re-architecture that to take on a little bit more demand. Outside of that, there are compliance reasons to why we need to help customers navigate this sooner. Ultimately, if you are an organisation that's achieved your Cyber Essentials certifications, that's key to continuously recerting that. And ultimately, one of the requirements from them is to have your devices supported, appropriate licensing and patched. Obviously, if that's no longer supported from a vendor, that puts you in that tricky spot where you have to achieve that and must come up with a decision to how you resolve that, which is exactly why we were talking about the refresh or re-architecturing approaches. In terms of Cisilion and how we help our customers with that, I don't know if you could kind of briefly talk about the approaches we take with our customers to help them on that journey to avoid that last minute notification that something must be done.
Yeah, so I think, from our side, part of our services is we're looking to end of sale information for customers and start doing that road mapping with the customer early.
I think one of the things I would add here, Will, is how Cisilion are really well placed with our network of distributors and vendors to help source other solutions as well. So like where Nathan was talking about potentially looking at re-architecting, changing the spec, giving different capabilities, it's probably a good point to mention, good place to mention that.
So what, in terms of other vendors, or just say, well...
No,
sorry.
I would just say, like, when we're talking about, re-architecting and potentially looking at how we can make what is available work.
Yeah.
Cisilion are really well placed to help our customers with that, with our network of distributors and vendors, making sure we've got a full view of what's out there available on the market to help us re-architect and meet business requirement, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. I just need to remember what I was going to say.
What's that?
So,
Sorry.
yeah, no. So I was going to talk about, working with them in terms of, you've spoken about roadmap, and then I can also say about, part of the re-architecting, working with our vendors and distributors to make sure that we meet their needs and timelines in their period that they're required.
Yeah, meeting that project timeline while being innovative on it. Using innovation, so not just thinking about, right, they've asked for this particular model. If there's another model available with distribution channels or other vendors, ultimately, we can explore that to give them solutions, not problems.
Yeah. Do you think I should mention like tier 1 and tier 2, or just say distribution?
No, I would just say network distributors and vendors.
So as part of what you previously mentioned about redesigning the architectures, we work very closely with our vendors and distributors, and to make sure that while you might ask for X, we can look at and see if we can provide a different alternative for you guys, so you can meet your timelines and also your price points.
No, it's a really good point. And actually, on the price points, again, across the market, we're seeing different vendors handle this in slightly different ways, but there is a bit of volatile. It's a volatile market in terms of the pricing approach now, where typically we would be able to guarantee a customer if you order something now, it would be X price. In many cases, vendors are holding their rights to be able to adjust the pricing closer to shipping date, which ultimately, in many cases, unfortunately, right now is meaning higher prices onto your business after you believed you had the price and order known. Gemma, from your perspective, is there any way we can help our customers with that, with the nature of the volatile pricing?
I think the first thing that I would say, Nathan, is transparency. Transparency is key, right? Making sure that we're keeping our customers and clients aware of what is happening, where they are at risk of that happening. And as soon as we receive the communication that it could be happening to their order, that we're making sure that's shared with them on what does that look like, right? And making sure that we're absolutely honest with them about what that increase is and what that means to us and to them. I think that second to that, there is always because obviously these increases that we've seen, both from a list price level and that could still come just before shipping, have massive impacts on budgets potentially, right? And we all know that it's a really difficult conversation to have with your finance team to go, I want this much money today, but I might need this much money tomorrow, right? That's a really uncomfortable conversation for anybody to have. We know that many of our clients and customers work with various finance houses, but also Cisilion have various finance houses that we have worked with in the past and that we would happily make introductions and work with to ensure that we can do what you need us to do in the timeframes you need it to, with as little financial impact as possible, to allow us to successfully deliver against your business outcomes.
Just to add, a lot of our customers would have budgeted for these new technologies already, and so they come into be in a position where they can process an order, and then it may have doubled in price, and so they're now looking at do we need to downsize the project and do it in installments or phases, or is there an alternative way that we can do it in a big bang theory and potentially save some money, rather than put it down 2 years down the line, that it will be more cost effective to just do it as one big order. Is an alternative way to look at it.
No, and this is what I love about what we do at Cisilion, to be clear, because this is all around how we provide solutions to problems and not another problem to a problem that exists, that sometimes, in many cases, outside that customer or business's control. And I think in particular, this is where our kind of technology and consultancy-led business thrives. Because what we really want to do is understand those projects, your business requirements, the needs, and help you build a solution to this. Sometimes there are ways where absolutely it could be because of cost changes, you need to do something across a longer period of time, and helping you define how that looks and how you successfully build that without too much business impact, whether that be from a compliance perspective or from a new project, say a new office fit out, ensuring that happens timely. The other side of that we very much focus on is really 3 phases here, which is understanding the business, the requirements, aka those are kind of audit approaches to it. What is the current environment? What are the solutions to this? Is that a case you must have new kit now, or can it be delayed or redesigned, as we called out? There's a managed service approach we take. We pride ourselves as one of the leading managed service partners in the UK to ensure we can provide support for something, whether it's in cycle or out of cycle. And naturally, as I mentioned earlier, there's compliance reasons we really want to avoid that, but we certainly provide the option that we can still take on that burden for you and ensure while we're waiting for those lead times or for those redesigns that infrastructure, whether it be server or cloud or network, there is ultimately got some form of love and attention around it in case the worst happens. Because the key part is the business continues to operate with minimal impact. I think thinking forward here a little, I want to gauge both of your opinions on this, because do you envision pricing coming back down, or this being a very short-term solution? You know, can customers wait this out for a few months and, you know, memory is going to reappear? I suppose starting with yourself, Will, what's your kind of prediction on this?
I mean, from my perspective, you know, the information I've seen is that, you know, we're not expecting it to get particularly much better in 2026. I've seen that they are scaling up manufacturing at the moment, and they are looking to get that in place for 2027. Obviously, you know, to build the manufacturing and the expansions, that's, you know, not a quick fix. It's, you know, taking 18 to 24 months to get in that position. So, you know, while we're expecting it might improve going into Q4 26, I think until 2027 is when we're likely to see a return to normal.
And Gemma, from your perspective, would you agree with that, or do you have a slightly different opinion?
I think it's slightly, ever so slightly different in that I think the boom in AI is not going to stop, right? It is what we're all talking about. It's what's driving a lot of decisions. It's what a lot of CIOs and IT leaders are talking about using in their business, right? And we know that this particular shortage is being driven largely by, you know, those AI providers buying up all of the memory. And yes, while I think that manufacturing will ramp up, yes, I think that we will end up in a better position. I think while AI is still on a huge growth trajectory, and it's still relatively unknown how big and how demanding that growth will be in what time frame, there is still a little bit of ambiguity there, right? We could ramp up, the industry can ramp up expecting a certain level, and actually the boom's bigger than than anybody expected it to be. So I think for me personally, I do think it will recover somewhat by the end of 2026, and we'll start to find out what that new normal starts to look like. But I think until we really fully understand what the long-term AI boom is, we won't understand what the new normal really does look like for us in terms of availability, new lead times, new pricing structures. And I think that very much fits the pattern of what we've seen previously, where we've had these instances of a boom. We've never gone fully back to what we had previously. We redefined the normal based on where the technology and the drivers had taken us.
I think that's a really good point, actually, Gemma, because in particular, while none of us can predict the future, what we certainly can do is look back to see if history can teach us any lessons there. And certainly during COVID with end user devices, for example, all of a sudden where everyone was working from home, a massive spike in demand around laptops. And naturally that did result, because it was a spike in demand, in increased costs and lead times. Now, while the lead times did improve naturally over time, the pricing never fully recovered. And I think that is quite reflective, because as you say, Will, they are building up new demands in terms of supporting the current demand with new warehousing and manufacturing capabilities. That comes at a cost to those vendors. And naturally that cost ends up getting passed down. So I agree with yourself there, Gemma, in particular, which is it's improbable it will go back quite to a new normal for a while. And I think very much this is a prime opportunity where we can really help our customers, really add value. This is not a case where you need to view this as a worry, but actually an opportunity where really we can take the time, really understand your requirements, provide clear audits that are aligned to RAG statuses. So yes, red, you do have something end of support coming in the next 6 months. That needs to be addressed immediately. So you've got clear priorities around that and solutions to it. Not just you need to buy something new, but actually here's how we can help you redesign or move to new architectural frameworks like cloud solutions.
Switch on facilities that you already have within your infrastructure but aren't taking advantage of, that may solve the problem. That doesn't mean going out and buying new tech, right? This is all I think you're right, Nathan. It's an opportunity to stop and rethink about how you do something and get the most out of what you have. And then when you are looking forward, taking the opportunity as much as possible to future proof what you are purchasing in the timeframes that you're buying it. It very much for me, it's a stop and think and take advantage of the opportunity moment rather than oh, what do I do? This is causing me a problem.
No, 100%. We don't want our customers to have a knee-jerk reaction to anything here. Instead, let us help you. Let us help you understand how we can tackle this together to solve those problems. And I think between us, we've come up with a few nice ideas already. And certainly what we all encourage is those conversations to be happening. And if you're not working with us at the moment, again, our door is always open. We'll be very keen to sit down, take the time with you and help you roadmap and plan an appropriate response. I think with that in mind, I will close this one off for today. Thank you so much, everyone, for all your time, and we look forward to helping you again in the future.